participants, welcome to the launch of KICS EMAP 2.0 in Europe and Central Asia, or the second phase of our work. My name is Veronica Mosolova. I'm the project officer for the KICS EMAP Hub. I will start with a brief technical introduction before we start the session. Welcome, everyone. First of all, we'd like to remind you that there's language interpretation in English and Russian at this event. You can enable it by clicking on the interpretation button at the bottom of the screen. Уважаемые участники, как всегда, доступен синхронный перевод на русский язык. Вы можете включить эту опцию, выбрав иконку интерпретации на нижней панели меню. Если вам нужна помощь, пожалуйста, напишите нам в чат. We would like to remind you that due to the room size, all microphones will be muted. However, we invite you to turn on your camera if possible to create a friendlier and more engaging atmosphere for the event. Please note that this event will be recorded and recordings will be made publicly available. And just a quick reminder to those who joined us later, there is language interpretation in English and Russian at this event. We invite you to change your name. You can do it by going to the participants window and clicking on more next to your name. Please write your full name and your country or maybe organization. We invite you to introduce yourself in the chat. You can also write your full name, your organization, and your country. And you can also use the chat in case of technical issues. You can write to the KICS EMAP team or privately to me, Veronica Mosolova, in the chat. At this meeting, there will be several Q&A sessions. We actually highly recommend that you write your questions at any time during the meeting. Please don't forget to write your full name and your country when you ask your question. We will then group the questions and address them during the Q&A session. So don't hesitate to write your questions at any time. And good news, and a highly anticipated Facebook page has been launched. My colleagues will paste links in the chat. So please follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter at KICS EMAP, and feel free to use our official hashtags KICS EMAP and GPKICS. So on that note, I would like to remind you that for more information, you can visit our webpage, norg.org KICS EMAP. And I would like to invite the director of the hub, José Luis Canellas, to give the introduction to the session. Thank you, and José Luis, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Veronica. So hello and a warm welcome to everyone to the KICS EMAP launch in Europe and Central Asia. As you know, KICS, which is short for Knowledge Innovation Exchange, the KICS program has been recently extended to 2027 after a successful first phase of work that started in 2020. KICS is a global partnership for education mechanism implemented with Canada's International Development Research Centre, IDRC. Regional hubs, as our KICS EMAP hub, which is hosted by NORAG in Geneva, are one of the two key components of KICS. Our hub, the EMAP hub, covers 35 countries, which are now organized into 4 different subregions, allowing for a more targeted, focused, and meaningful support. Today, we are with one of the subregions, ECA, Europe and Central Asia, that's covering countries such as Albania, Georgia, Kyrgyz Republic, Moldova, Mongolia, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Ukraine that joined recently our hub. Other countries that are not GP member countries can benefit from open access and free to attend events from our KICS EMAP hub. So moving forward, the event today is organized with the objective that by the end of this session today, all participants will know a bit more about the hub and about our presence in the ECA subregion. We'll know how to get in contact with the hub central team as well as their contacts at national level. And we'll know what's coming next in terms of activities. Our knowledge lead for Europe and Central Asia, Jules Levin, and project officer Veronica Muzolova will be guiding us at the core of our session today, which will be a presentation and discussion moments where we will hear about the hub in the sub-region, and about the upcoming activities. And we also have a chance to hear from our education policy evaluation and learning leads, Marina Duroforte, on the recent baseline results, and from the national coordinators from the Europe and Central Asian countries. So, all from my part, it is my pleasure now to hand over to Julia Levin. Julia, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Jose Luis. Dear colleagues, very warm welcome on behalf of the KICS EMAP Hub. My name is Julia Levin, and I am one of the knowledge leads. I'm working closely and overseeing the work with countries from Europe, Central Asia, and Caucasus. And today, as Jose Luis already mentioned, our objective is to introduce to you the work of the KICS EMAP Hub, to introduce to you the initiative KICS, and also to give you an overview of the upcoming activities, and to give you the chance to learn more about our national teams and stakeholders participating actively in KICS. And we also hope that by the end of the session, you get to know us better and also ways to participate in all of our activities. Next slide, please. So first, we start with a brief overview. We would like to talk about the KICS initiative and the KICS grantees and how to apply for pre-KICS research. Next, we will introduce a little bit our work, our region, and our national teams will present themselves, introduce themselves. Afterwards, we will present you the results from the baseline study. The baseline study is a survey we conducted over the last weeks. For us, it was important to learn more about the current initiatives, reforms in each of the participating countries, to learn more about the organizations involved, and to learn more about the thematic priorities, as our aim is to align our work with national demands and national needs, and to make our work useful. And based on these results, we outlined our working plan and the upcoming activities, which we also will introduce to you at this stage. And finally, the next steps. Here you will learn a little bit more how to participate in the KICS activities and how to get connected with us. Next slide, please. So coming to the overview. What is the KICS initiative? The KICS initiative was started by the Global Partnership of Education based on the demands from the countries. So there was a demand from the countries to have something like KICS in place. KICS stands for Knowledge and Innovation Exchange. And Global Partnership for Education asked the International Development Research Center based in Canada to overview and to organize and manage the KICS initiative. And the idea or the current state of the Knowledge and Innovation Exchange initiative is to bring together, or currently we are bringing together 88 low and middle income countries, of whom all of them are partners of the Global Partnership of Education, to identify common policies, common challenges, and to support knowledge sharing between those countries and within the countries, and to see how can we contribute to evidence building, which can be used for policy decision, policy planning, and all processes related to that. What does KICS do? So first of all, we support the generation of knowledge, for example, through supporting research or synthesis papers or situation analysis. KICS also mobilizes knowledge. So we are aiming to identify stakeholders working on specific thematic priorities, researchers who are conducting specific kind of relevant research and similar. And last but not least, KICS is also aiming for strengthening the capacity to offer learning opportunities for different stakeholders. Just to name a few, for example, how to conduct strategic planning using policy analysis tools, or how to expand or scale professional development using digital tools. So yeah, this is about KICS as a whole idea. Now let me talk a little bit more about the details of KICS. KICS has two big components. One component is the knowledge exchange and mobilization, and the other one is applied research. I will talk a little bit more about the applied research in a moment. First, I would like to take a moment to talk about the knowledge exchange and mobilization, which consists of 4 hubs. 4 hubs, you can imagine them as 4 organizations overseeing the work with countries from different regions. One of the hubs is our organization, is the KICS EMAP hub, which covers countries from Europe, Middle East, Asia, and Pacific Islands. But there are also 3 other hubs. 2 of them are in Africa. One is the Francophone African countries, and the other covers English-speaking countries. And we have also a hub in Latin America. So overall, we have 4 hubs covering 70 countries. On the other hand, we have also applied research, and here the applied research has 3 components. There's applied research on the global projects, which covers all kind of different countries. Then we have regional projects, which covers specific regions or countries within specific regions. And there's also research on how to scale. What does research on scaling means? Research on scaling means that you have, for example, a small successful project, and the research is about how can you scale or expand the small pilot project to the whole country. So these are the three fields of research. And overall, during the last 3 years, there were 41 research grants in 53 countries. And based on the overall work of the applied research projects and of the 4 hubs, we had 46 policy uptakes. What does this mean, policy uptakes? Policy uptakes mean that based on the results of the KICS work, there were concrete policy decision-making using the results produced either by the research projects or by the 4 hubs, by the activities in the context of the 4 hubs. This is like what happened now during the last 3 years. Now I would like to talk a little bit more about the applied research projects as they are for now. We currently, the IDRC, they are the main contact, and they are administrating these grants. They have priority teams, which they identify to conduct applied research. What is applied research? This is research which produces useful, practical, and insights for policy decision-making. And the idea is to target core education system priorities on the one hand, while at the same time conduct research on scaling the impact of education innovation. And I already explained it a moment ago. So it's about to see, for example, just like a practical example, you have a successful inclusive education project in preschool. and it's still on a small scale. And there is research, okay, how can we expand this research project that it's not only covers a few kindergartens, but is implemented within the system of education. And currently there were 4 thematic priorities identified. It's quality and use of data and data systems. It's gender equality, equity, and inclusion. It's equitable access to early childhood education, and it's teacher professional development. And of those 4 topics, there were already 2 calls for applications on quality and use of data and data systems, and gender equality, equity, and inclusion. So these are closed. The applications are now processed, and soon we will know about the project which will be implemented. No, your previous slide, I'm not finished. Which will be implemented during the next years. There are 2 upcoming calls for applied research. It's for equitable access to early childhood education and teacher professional development. The calls will be open this month. And I encourage everyone in the room to apply for those research projects. We will often asked, okay, how do I apply for this research project? What needs to be done to apply for those research projects? So there are several things you can do. First of all, we will post a link now to the chat about the closed application for gender equality, equity, and inclusion. Here you can take a look and see, okay, what are the formalities, what is demanded, how does it look like, what are the thematic priorities, and so on. So you already get an idea what to do to apply for those research grants. Secondly, you will also find a contact from IDRC. So if you have any specific questions for the applications, IDRC is the first contact person because they are managing those grants. And also, I would like to mention that in December, our KICS Hub, and we will talk a little bit later about it in detail, offer a webinar on how to write applications for grants and for projects. And this is also maybe an idea for you to join the webinar and to see how such an application could look like, what needs to be done. So this is for the applied research for now and for the future. And now also for you to get an idea what was funded in the previous years. Next slide, please. So during the last years, we had several applied research projects in Europe and Central Asia. Currently, there are still 2 projects ongoing. It's both are managed by UNICEF. One is using data for improving education equity and inclusion, which is in Georgia, Kyrgyz Republic, and Uzbekistan. And the other one is on integrating early childhood education and sectoral planning in Tajikistan and Kyrgyz Republic. We are also sharing the link so you can take a look at the project. There's one project in the region which will end in February 24. It's a regional project. It's distance education to improve quality and access to school education in Kyrgyz Republic, Mongolia, and Tajikistan, implemented by Tani Forum. We are also sharing the link in the chat so you can take a look at the project and get an idea. There's one project already completed, and it's the adaptation of and scaling teacher professional development approaches in Uzbekistan, implemented by Foundation for Information Technology Education. So this is about the KICS research grants. Let's talk now a little bit more about our own work as a KICS EMAP Hub. The KICS EMAP Hub is based in, the office is based in Geneva at the Graduate Institute, and is managed by the Network for International Policies and Cooperation in Education and Training, short NORAC. And we managed a quite diverse geography of countries, covering countries from the Middle East, East Asia, Pacific Islands, and also Europe and Central Asia. And Jose Luis already mentioned it in the beginning. We have, and we divide those 35 countries who are managed or who belong to our region in 3 sub-regions. The first sub-region is Eastern Europe and Central Asia, covering Albania, Georgia, Kyrgyz Republic, Moldova, Mongolia, Tajikistan, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan. Then we have also the South Asia, Middle East, and North Africa, which is covering currently on hold Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Maldives, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Sudan, Tunisia, and Yemen. And we have also the Southeast Asia and Pacific sub-region covering Bhutan, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Myanmar on hold, Nepal, Philippines, Timor-Leste, Vietnam, Papua New Guinea, and Pacific Island states. So overall, we have 35 countries in the region. And our aim is, on the one hand, to see what kind of national expertise is there in the countries? What are the national experts working on? What is the current discussion and debates in the field of education policy? And we aim to identify the most relevant. We aim to bring people from, or stakeholders from different countries together, so they share their visions, they share the current debates and discussions and innovations for policy and planning. While at the same time, we aim also to have a peer learning and exchange in the region, and to see, okay, what is needed, what is the needs of each respective educational system, and how we can support an exchange, but also facilitate learning experience. Next slide. So overall, our vision for our work is to support the use of research and evidence for successful reforms of the educational systems. And how do we do that? In general, on the one hand, we support the production of targeted policy research, usually because we are not like our program has how do I put it, certain time frames. So we aim to support specifically pieces which can be produced in the time frames from 3 to 6 months and who target specific challenges. Next, we also facilitate learn and exchange experience to learn about new educational research and evidence. And finally, we are aiming to strengthen the existing capacity to use data and research for policy and planning. Next slide, please. So overall, what do we aim to achieve? For the next 3 years, for all our 35 countries, we aim to achieve, on the one hand, we invite you to participate actively in all of our hub activities, to share with us produced knowledge and to exchange on knowledge about your educational systems. We also hope to see you in our activities, in our learning activities, where you can acquire new knowledge and skills on specific topics. We also invite you to share with us policies and practices that are relevant for your education system. We also hope to support, to strengthen new relationships and networks. So you're always welcome to join our activities and to become part of this network that we're establishing. And we also aim to mobilize knowledge and to inform education planning, policy, and practice. And at the end, of course, we aim to have education policies and practices that are developed and implemented on the results that we're contributing to the development of education policies and practices in each of the participating countries' educational system. So next slide, please. So upcoming, we will talk a little bit more about specifically about our region, about the national infrastructure, and also about the national teams. And Marina will present the results from our survey. What did we find about national priorities? And in line with that, we will present you the next activities. What did we learn from the baseline study, and how do we align our activities with the results? But before we start the next section, next slide, please. I would like to invite you to share comments, ask questions. I'm happy to clarify any questions you might have. And also our team is happy to answer questions you might have. So please do not hesitate to post questions in the chat. And maybe Marina already identified some questions or comments.
At the moment, we've been receiving a lot of messages of people from different countries introducing themselves, but we didn't get specific questions yet. But I would invite everyone in the room, if there is anything that was not clear for you, if you'd like to make comments, please just include that in the chat. And if that is not the case for now, we'll have other opportunities for questions and answers. And what we could be doing is to then address your questions in the next block. I see there is someone in Russian, if colleagues could help me.
Okay, Tatiana is asking about the projects, about the preschool education. So I think this is an interesting part. So I mentioned the KICS grants where everyone can apply for, and the call is not open yet. It will be open during this month. And if you already want to prepare to submit an application for this call, I suggest to you, we will share the slides anyway, and I think also the link was shared before. So take a look at the previous calls for application for these grants to get an idea what is required, what kind of documents you would need, how is the structure, what is expected. And then you can also address specifically IDRC, because IDRC is managing those grants. And also what we can offer from our side in December, we will offer a webinar on how to write proposals. So we would be also happy if you could join and also maybe find out more how to write proposals. So far for that. Okay, if there's, yeah, Marina?
There is one more question that maybe we can address before we move forward. And that question is from Elena Volkova, our coordinator in Uzbekistan, who is asking if you could give an example of a reform that was implemented as a result of a KICS activity.
Marina, maybe you have a good example?
Yes, I wouldn't say in KICS, we are not promoting specific reforms. So we are rather understanding what are priority areas in the different countries. And then we organize activities that will help in knowledge generation, generating studies related to that priority area, and also in mobilizing that knowledge and exchanging and disseminating existing knowledge. So on that, we don't say KICS has a direct impact on a reform that happens, but we rather have a contribution. That's what we want to do. One example of that is in the Maldives. Recently, the Maldives national government is going through a reform. So the ministry is reforming the curriculum to include 21st century skills. And based on that, they have identified a set of processes that they need to do to assess the curriculum and to make sure that the 21st century skills that they're developing for the curriculum are also aligned with the pedagogy. So that was a development in the policy, in the policy space in the Maldives that was deriving from their participation in one of our learning cycles focusing specifically on 21st century skills. So there was already a priority area for the government, but through the participation of different stakeholders in this learning cycle, they could understand, they could study the gaps in the linkages between the curriculum and the pedagogy, in the country, and then there was further developments, and now it's a country supports that KICS is also involved in, and they are taking that over as a policy development to improve the delivery of 21st century skills in the country. Let me see if we have any other burning questions. So maybe two other questions on the research, or one more on the research projects. Julia, maybe you or Jose Luis could address this one. If the applied research projects can be in any level of education, or is it that school education is a priority? And that comes from Azuma Bashirova.
Yeah. Thank you, Mazuma, for the question. So the global partner, so KICS and the Global Partnership for Education is targeting preschool, early childhood, and basic education. So it's not professional development or vet education. This is not covered by it.
Let me just add to that. It's perfectly fine just to add that KICS research can also focus on secondary education. So the priority is basic education, early childhood, also secondary, and teacher training. Sometimes teacher training happens at a higher education level. That is also can be the focus of KICS research.
Yeah, and then regarding, I also understand maybe Tatiana had a comment regarding the early childhood education project. So there is currently in Uzbekistan, so there's a project by UNICEF using data for improving education equity and inclusion in Georgia, Kyrgyz Republic, and Uzbekistan. We shared the link. Maybe we can reshare it again, so you can also take a look at this current project, which is taking place in Uzbekistan. Okay, and colleagues, please, we will now continue with the presentation. But in case you have any questions, do not hesitate to post it in the chat, and we can get also always back to it at a later stage. Okay, next slide then. Yeah, now we move forward, and we would like to tell you a little bit more about our team and about the national teams and the national infrastructure within each of our countries. Next slide, please. Here you can see our whole KICS IMAP team, including the KICS management team, KICS team, which is, yeah, the core KICS team, but also our national coordinators from all of the countries. We had an in-person meeting earlier this year. It was the first in-person meeting, and we hope for the future that we have more in-person meetings, because we also recognize it's important to get together and to connect, to establish networks, and to collaborate together. So overall, you can see here, these were not 35 countries yet, but you can have an idea of the diversity and our team. Next slide, please. Yeah, here you can see myself. I'm Julia Levin. I already had the chance to tell you a little bit about myself and about our work. And with me here today is Veronika Masulova. She is the project officer, and Veronika and I are both overseeing the work of the countries with Albania, Georgia, Kyrgyz Republic, Republic of Moldova, Mongolia, Tajikistan, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan. And now I would like to hand over to Veronika, so she can also introduce herself and lead the next section of the presentation. Veronika, please.
Thank you, Julia, and warm welcome once again to everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce the national infrastructure, to which I come in the next slide. And if you're new to the KICS EMAP Hub, it's a good opportunity for you to know how the KICS national team was appointed. And if you're not new to the hub, you might not really know who the national team in your country is. So it's a moment when you can find this information, and I hope it will be interesting for you to meet the national teams as we go further. So we always say that KICS activities should be demand-driven. And for that reason, the national team, so the national infrastructure, which consists of the national KICS coordinator and the national KICS steering committee members, is appointed by the local education stakeholders, such as Ministry of Education, local education group, if it exists in the country, and with the coordination with the GPE focal point. So those main education stakeholders appoint the National Steering Committee and the National KICS coordinator. And and the role of the national team in the country is to ensure that it's the national education priorities that shape our activities. And they're also assisting with the mobilization and identification of relevant participants for the activities and promote the exchange, learning, and uptake of the knowledge at the national level. So a little bit about the role of the National KICS coordinator and the National KICS steering committee members. So the National KICS coordinator is your main contact point in the country. The KICS coordinator manages the activities at the country level, mobilizes relevant participants. They also establish coordination with the Ministry of Education, GPE, country support, and the local education group, and connects with the KICS research projects that Julia mentioned sometime earlier. The KICS steering committee has an overseeing role. So they collaborate with the national coordinator, they oversee the activities, and they help to strengthen the relationship with the Ministry of Education and other national education stakeholders in the country. And we, of course, it's a complicated image, but what we try to say here is that we know that there are other education stakeholders in the countries, and we try to align our activities and work together with the Ministry of Education, with the GPE focal point, who is now the head of the steering committee in most countries. And some of the local education group members are also entered the KICS steering committees in several countries. And we also encourage closer collaboration with other GPE structures and the ministries of education. And now that you know who the KICS coordinator is and who the national steering committees are, this table represents the situation in the 8 of our countries. So in most countries, there is a national KICS coordinator and there is a national KICS steering committee established. You will meet the national coordinators or the representatives of the countries in a minute. So stay tuned for that. And we have 2 countries where the national infrastructure has not been established yet, but we're actively working to do so. So it's in Albania and Ukraine, Ukraine is the new country who joined just recently. So if you're a representative from one of those countries, maybe write to us in the chat in this meeting if you would like to collaborate with us to make sure that there is a KICS infrastructure to ensure that our activities are tailored to your national education priorities. And I think here I'm going to hand over back to Julia, who will introduce the national teams and will invite the national coordinators and representatives to introduce themselves and the national teams. Julia?
Yeah. So as Veronica just mentioned, we don't have a national infrastructure yet in Albania. So if there are colleagues in this meeting from Albania, please reach out. We're still aiming to establish a national infrastructure for this space. And yeah, so welcome to contact us. And then I would say next slide, and I'm handing over to our coordinator from Georgia, Natya Pirashvili. Please, Natya.
Hello, everyone. First of all, congratulations. Congratulations. We have an opportunity to continue our wonderful project. And also I have to use this opportunity and congratulate the new members of this group, such as the Eastern European and Central Asia countries, Albania, Ukraine. You're lucky. You have an opportunity to join us. We were only 6 countries, now we will be 8. So more opportunities and more chances to somehow change the experience. And we already had the opportunity to implement some joint projects under the previous project, and I hope that the this new project will give us the same opportunities too. Now I have the honor to introduce the members of my country. As the Veronica and the Julia already mentioned, we already also have a national steering committee, and we have participants from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Ministry of Education and Sciences of Georgia, sorry. And the representatives are also from the GPE, as a GPE focal point in Georgia is the chair of the National Committee of Georgia. And we also have a representative from non-governmental organization, as I am myself, and also the Guna Bibilashvili is also represent the non-governmental sector. And so somehow the inclusion engagement is the priority of the KICS, and when we somehow starting to create the national steering committee, we somehow thinking about the balance to have a governmental and non-governmental actors in the national steering committee. So nowadays the national steering committee is very balanced. It's my opinion. So we have somehow had the opportunity to be the part of learning cycles, and some of the representatives of Georgians participated in the learning cycles. And thank you once again for this opportunity. We have participants from Georgia in the first learning cycle and also the 4th and 5th learning cycles. And I think that this really very nice platform to improve the skills at the national level. And as a national coordinator, I have somehow the obligation to help the KICS in the recruitment, the participants for the learning cycles, and also the EPIC is a conference, and we have some representatives and speakers at the conferences from Georgia too. And the last I want to mention in my presentation is the exchange sub-regional grant. We somehow had the opportunity to be the host country and have the opportunity to share the experience other countries from the Europe and Central Asia. So hello everyone who been the participant of this wonderful project. And the inclusive education is one of the priority of the KICS. So the inclusive education was a priority of this project. And as Julia already mentioned, this project is somehow finalized the end of this year. So we are waiting the new opportunities to share the experience. And once again, thank you, the members of my National Steering Committee, and thank you to the KICS to give us the opportunity to be the part of the second phase of the project. Have a fruitful day, have a fruitful launching day. Once again, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Nadia. And now I'm handing over to our National Coordinator from Kyrgyzstan, General Bakambayev.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, colleagues. Yes, my microphone has been unmuted. Yeah. Okay. Greetings to everyone. Salamat zdarvы in Kyrgyz. I'm really happy to be here today. I don't see a lot of participation from the Kyrgyz Republic, unfortunately, but it has not always been the case. And I guess there will be more active participation in the future and in the upcoming months, actually. Our country has been actively engaged in the KICS IMAP Hub activities, be it the EPIC conferences, actually. There have been 2 this year and the last year. And also the webinars, the learning cycles, which brought together not only representatives of state ministries and agencies, but also non-state organizations, associations, and NGOs. Our National Steering Committee has been traditionally chaired by the Vice Minister of Education. Currently, we have 4 members and who have always been here as members of the National Steering Committee, a representative of the Kyrgyz Ministry of Education and Science, Mrs. Nurzida Kasimova, head of the Early Childhood Education Department and Preschool Education Department, actually, at the ministry, but also Dr. Ulanbek Mambetakunov, who used to be the Vice Minister for Education and Science and also the Minister. Also Gulmira Sultanova, who is a specialist at the World Bank, the education specialist, and also Mrs. Chinar Guljamagulova, who is an officer at UNICEF, responsible for early childhood development component. We are currently expecting that the National Committee for Kyrgyzstan will be expanded and maybe enlarged to reflect the actual current priorities and tendencies of the project development. We are looking forward to all these opportunities which are laid down for KICS IMAP 2.0 prospects in the country. I cannot also forget about the very active role that the Higher School of Management NGO has played in development of KICS activities in the country. They have led actually a joint endeavor on inclusive education, which brought together Georgia, Moldova, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan, of course. And also, I cannot praise Talim Forum well enough, because they have been extremely active in implementing a very useful and regional-based project for access to distance education and fairness in access to education, which brought together not only Kyrgyzstan and Mongolia, but Tajikistan. And I'm happy to see that these endeavors are not only national, but they bring together several countries. And I hope it continues like that. And again, greetings to all the familiar faces and unfamiliar faces. And I want to start here in greeting the new members of the IMAP Hub. And I just look forward on behalf of all the colleagues, on behalf of all the partners and new participants and people who are just interested and who are engaged in these areas and in these reform areas, actually, for education. I just speak on their behalf. Maybe it's a bit brave, but I would say that we're very much looking forward to development of these project activities. And we are sure that this will be extremely beneficial, not just for Kyrgyzstan, but for the region and for other countries as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Janil. Now we're moving on to Moldova. Moldova is today represented by Irina Poposoy. Irina is representing the Alliance of Active NGOs in the field of child and family social protection. as our current GPE focal point and also national coordinator can't be here today with us. Irina, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to participate in the meeting. Yes, today I will represent the Moldovan team, as Ms. Pavlov is in another meeting and could not participate. As you can see, our organization is represented in the National Steering Committee, and we are the Alliance of Active NGOs in the field of child and family protection, which is a national network of 64 NGOs working in child protection, in protecting the child rights, ensuring well-being of children, and ensuring the best interest of the child. So I have learned that maybe this composition of the steering committee and maybe the national coordinator will be revised, but I cannot tell much about it as I don't know. Well, first of all, on behalf of the team, I want to express our gratitude for being part of, that Moldova is part of this program, and that we have this opportunity to exchange views, experiences, learn from other countries, and also improve our knowledge and learn innovative practices for improving the education. Our alliance also is focused, one of our priorities is also education, and we are glad to be part of this program. I learned that Moldova has participated in various activities that were organized by KICS, and that Moldovan team, including one of a representative from our organization, has actively participated in the inter-country exchange program focusing on inclusive education for children with disabilities, in the education policy and innovation conferences that were held in 2021 and 2023. And in 2021, Moldova has also presented a study on criteria-based assessment in general education. I hope that was a very good important study for the other countries, and it was a good exchange of practices. I learned that Moldova has also actively participated in various learning cycles, such as teacher professional development at scale, diagnostic tools for improving education policy planning, integration of 21st century skills in curriculum, and feasibility study on scaling innovation. That was important as it highlights how much is committed Moldova to advance in education and to increase innovation in this field. I think the role of Moldova to be part of this KICS EMAP hub is important. And engagement in the international cooperation is crucial to improve the commitment to improve the educational policies, practices, and innovations in the country and within the region. So I'm happy that we will be part of this process in the next phase, and we are happy to learn more about how to apply for the next phase.
Thank you very much, Irina. And now we are moving forward to our dear colleague from Mongolia, Bayanzu Gunga. Please, Bayanzu.
Greetings to everyone from Mongolia. I'm happy to see all of you. I joined KICS in March 2022, and Mongolia is interested in learning and participating in KICS EMAP activities. And in the past, we had participants in learning cycles and podcasts, and also there were some active participants in EPIC conferences. As a developing country, we need to learn new skills and knowledge to apply to revise and reform our education policy and practice. So we are looking forward in engaging more activities in the near future through the KICS EMF network. As for the KICS national team, we have quite large team compared to other countries, and representing GP Focal Point and the National Research Institute and Ministry of Education. Also, we have representative from Mongolia as the one of the largest universities in teacher training. And also we have representatives from different government organizations and also some other non-governmental civil society organizations, including the biggest national network, All for Education, National Civil Society Coalition of Mongolia, and how we can engage in more activities in this KICSIMAP 2.0 phase, and our Mongolian participants will be learning and exchanging knowledge in different activities, and happy to see you all again. And participants here will learn more activities and more collaboration opportunities from this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bayan Zul. And now I'm handing over to our colleague Shadibek Kodirov from Tajikistan. Shadibek.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые коллеги.
Hello, dear colleagues. Thank you. Thanks to KICS EMAP for inviting us. Yes, indeed, Tajikistan has been very active in KICS projects, almost in all the activities carried out by KICS. And also in Tajikistan, we have the same infrastructure that has been presented here for the other countries. So we have experts, education experts, representatives of different structures of the Ministry of Education and Science of the country, different educational institutions. They are part of the National Steering Committee, and they attend different activities and conferences, as well as workshops and learning cycles organized by KICS. We have some analysts who have been already trained through different KICS courses, and they are now employed at different organizations. Also, currently, 2 NGOs from Tajikistan are actively involved in exchange and innovations activities offered by KICS, specifically for digitalization and inclusive education. And I'm sure that in the future, Tajikistan would also actively participate in KICS 2.0 activities. And I want to congratulate all our colleagues with this very successful launch of KICS 2.0. And I think that there are all the opportunities for Tajikistan to be actively involved in KICS projects. Like recently, for instance, the Ministry of Education and Science of Tajikistan approved the new composition of the National Steering Committee. Now this committee is chaired by the first Deputy Minister of Education and Science of Uzbekistan, Mr. Jurazoda Jamshed. And also the National Steering Committee now includes head of the Department of Postgraduate Education for teachers, head of the Science and Innovation Department under the Ministry of Education and Science, and also the National Steering Committee includes a representative of UNICEF, a donor organization, Mr. Jamshed Kurbonov, as well as a representative from a non-governmental organization, specifically Association of Parents of Children with Disabilities, and her name is Sabahat Hakim Zoda. And I think that this new composition of the National Steering Committee would contribute to more active involvement of the committee into all KICS initiatives in the Republic of Tajikistan, and I'm sure they would involve even more educational institutions, even more partners from Tajikistan in KICS projects. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Shodibek. And now we move forward to the next slide. And we see we don't have currently in Ukraine an infrastructure. We're still working on it. But I see also Natalia Pon and Sergey Londar here today with us from the Institute of Educational Analytics. I'm very happy to see you here and welcome you because you already have joined activities in the past, and I'm also looking forward to connect with you also and expand our network in Ukraine, and that I'm happy to welcome you as a part of our upcoming national representatives. So feel very welcome. And yeah, therefore, I would suggest we move to the next slide, to Uzbekistan. Our national coordinator from Uzbekistan, Emine Shahmetova, she couldn't be today with us. So therefore, our colleague Yelena Volkova will take the lead and introduce the national infrastructure and activities in Uzbekistan. Yelena, please.
Assalamu alaikum, dear colleagues. Welcome from Uzbekistan, and thank you very much for invitation and high appreciation of everything that you do for development of systems in our countries. And yes, National Steering Committee in Uzbekistan is outnumber all the other countries. We have 10 people, but in Uzbekistan, our journey of developing KICS activities is experiencing sometimes the acceleration moment, sometimes we slow down because the reforms are going on and people change their positions, and it may be possible that this list of people may also be updated soon. And I want to say that whatever is the membership, there is a principle in Uzbekistan that we want to see people from different expertise to be sitting together one's decision making, and that is why we have a combination and a very good blend of professionals from local management, from ministries of public education, and from the professional development pedagogical institute, sitting together with representatives from international universities and international companies whose expertise in research is different, and they look at whatever is happening in the country from different lenses, from different perspectives. And for us, this is very important, and this indicates the interest to activities that KICS initiate for the country development and for the region development. And this allows us to make a better informed decisions in terms of what we want to see Uzbekistan to be engaged in. So now what we've been doing with KICS, we were active participants in several learning cycles, but then at some points the dissemination of information was not very widespread, and at some point we didn't have very active engagement in those. But we participated in the first conference and speakers, and in the second conference as participants. And at the moment, Uzbekistan is a member of 2 projects, And we hope very much that with this new spiral, with this launch of the next cycle of the project, we will be able to accelerate our activities even further. And thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to strengthen the collaboration and partnership between our countries. And thank you very much for listening. That's it from me, Yulia.
Thank you very much, Irina. And I would suggest we move on to the next slide. Maybe also one comment. I'm not sure if everyone was following the chat, but I could see all the lovely messages exchanged. And I think this is also a result of our common work during the last 3 years, that not only highly professional relationships were built, but also there's lots of trust and warm relationships based on our cooperation across the countries. So I'm very happy to see this growing and looking very much to expand on it and welcome new members, and to see the project and also especially the networks and the trusting warm relationships grow. So coming to our national teams, what lies in front of us in the future? We aim to meet with our national teams. This means the knowledge leads, myself and Veronica as a project officer, with all the national teams each quarter. And in addition, we plan that every 6 months, the National Steering Committee meets with the KICS coordinator, and this meeting will be organized by the national coordinators. In addition, we have also monthly meetings as needed between national steering committees, national coordinators, and the representatives of the KICS team, meaning myself and Veronica. Next slide, please. So next upcoming, we are having the baseline results and the upcoming activities, and also the next steps. And as I didn't see any specific questions, maybe Marina can also let me know if you saw any specific questions in the chat. I would suggest we move forward and present the baseline result.
Sounds good. Let's do it. Okay, so as some of you might already know, I know we had a lot of contributions from the sub-region on our baseline survey. We started this process back in September. We're distributing a survey to understand a bit more what are the priorities for our work going forward up to 2027. So as we are starting a new phase, we're really trying to capture this baseline, to set a benchmark for our work going forward, but also to understand what are the best ways that we can respond to your national priorities, national education system priorities, in which formats as well. So we'll be sharing here today a sample of the results we got, and I think this will make a good linkage with the plans that Julia will be sharing afterwards for the activities we will be organizing. So if you can move to the next slide. So to start with some of the results we got, when we were asking countries in this sub-region, what are the thematic priorities for the hub's work? What are the thematic priorities that should be addressed in your education system? We got 3 specific areas that were rated the most important, and they are curriculum, pedagogy, and learning assessments, teacher training and teacher management, and equity and inclusion. Of course, you see that there are also 2 other areas that were ranked high: the use of technology in education, and also the use of data for education policy and practice. But we are learning from this data to start designing the activities that will be responding to those demands. And then next slides. In the next slide, in these slides, you'll be seeing the preferred formats for hub activities in the sub-region. So we're trying to understand from you, given the thematic priorities that you have communicated to us, what are the best formats to be addressing those priorities in our hub. And we've seen here 3 specific formats that were ranked the preferred ones, which are workshops, learning cycles, which are professional development courses. A lot of you in this meeting today have taken part in previous learning cycles we organized and will be having more in the future. So workshops, learning cycles, as well as cross-national policy research grants. So countries coming together to do research on a topic that is common across countries. And then next slide. We're also interested to learn more about what are the most effective ways of disseminating the findings of KICS publications. So for us, as you heard from Julia in the beginning, we have a lot of KICS research projects that we are involved in disseminating. And there is also a lot of knowledge that is produced within the hub activities. So we're trying to hear from you what would be the best channels for disseminating the findings of these publications. And we heard three specific formats that will be the most helpful in disseminating findings, and they have to do with a lot of conferences and also uptake forums, so presentations at international conferences, but also at national and regional conferences, and national uptake forums. And by national uptake forums in the hub, Julia will be talking more about it, but the idea is that there are national level activities in which different stakeholders can come together and discuss the findings and listen to the findings and discuss then their applicability for the specific context. Next slide, please. And then, in addition to understanding the channels for disseminating research, we're also wanting to hear from you more concrete suggestions on how is it that the hub can make the findings of the research reach those that are making or influencing education policies in the countries. And in these, the comments that we received most often was to engage with national decision makers. And this is something that we'll certainly be pursuing in this next phase, so ensuring that national decision makers are taking part in the activities, but also that when they cannot take part, that they are informed of the different findings that are emerging and that can be of relevance for the national context. And you see here two other suggestions were ranked very high, which is the sharing of findings and recommendations in closed meetings. And we understand this might be both at the national and at the sub-regional level, and also the sharing of findings and recommendations using online tools. So we'll make sure to have that both in-person and online mix of activities in which we ensure engagement of national decision makers and the clear dissemination in the national context of such findings. And then we can go to the last slide on the baseline results, which is regarding the platforms. Which are the platforms that are most used in the sub-region for accessing information about education-related news and events? And we heard that three platforms are the most used, and they are Facebook, email, and YouTube. So with email, we will make sure to continue the email communications, and on that, if you are not yet if you have not yet signed up for our newsletter, we invite you to do so, as this is a channel in which we share a lot of information about what is going on in the hub activities, but also developments in the different countries that are part of the hub. Facebook, you heard from my colleague Veronica in the beginning, we have recently launched a new Facebook page for the hub. We invite you to follow and to engage with us there as well. And this will be an important channel for us in communicating the different activities organized, but also in disseminating some of the products that we have developed already. And then you see also YouTube. So YouTube is also a new channel for the hub. We have been using a previous platform before called Vimeo, and now we are on YouTube listening to your demands. And please also visit our YouTube channel to see some of the video interviews that we have with different experts in the sub-region, but also the recordings of past activities we had. Last but not least, let me thank you all who are here today who contributed to this baseline exercise. This is an important process for our hub, and we'll make sure as well that going forward, we are always attentive and listening to your emerging demands. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Marina. Now we're coming to the next activities within the scope of our work. We are now starting in November, and we will have a new webinar and on whose knowledge is used in education together with NORAD. As I already mentioned before, there is the call for proposals for the KICS research on teaching and early learning will be launched by IDRC KICS team. There's also the RCCS. RCCS stands for Rapid Customized Country Support, which is a new activity within the scope of our work. And we had this kind of activity on an exchange on inclusive education between 5 countries. We are still finalizing the national reports, and we are planning the final event. Next, we will also update the national steering committees in Moldova, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyz Republic. Next month in December, we will have a workshop on innovation to action, so grant writing for research projects. As I already mentioned, if you want to learn more about grant writing for research projects, please join. We will continue the exchange on inclusive education, and we will also publish video interviews from the experience. We had 2 study tours, one to Georgia and the other one to Uzbekistan, and we will publish video interviews on the experience. Next, from January to February, we will have, we are planning to have the final event on the inter-country exchange on the inclusive education, where each of the participating countries will present their national results, and there will be also a comparative analysis, and we will present the comparative results. There will be also national teams quarterly meeting. We will also publish a bigger video on the inter-country exchange on inclusive education, where we captured different parts of the inclusive education system in Uzbekistan and Georgia, which we would like to share with you. There will be also a podcast on inclusive education on insights from this exchange, and also stakeholders who were participating in this exchange will present their perspectives. There will be a workshop on education finance. There will be also a hub retreat with the KICS national coordinators and the KICS team. And we are planning to conduct a national uptake forum. The national uptake forum, as Marina just mentioned, this is an idea for new activity which will take place in the respective country, invite all relevant stakeholders, and promote KICS research or KICS knowledge products. And we will announce the details for this at a later stage. Next slide. Then, based on the baseline survey, we find out that teacher development is an important reform ongoing in most of the countries, and we would like to have a webinar with different organizations who are working in the respective countries on teacher development. And the idea is that each country presents their approach, their challenges, their ideas, and we have a different perspective on teacher development across Europe and Central Asia. Next, we would like also to conduct a podcast on transformation on informational educational management in emergency. We would definitely like to invite someone from Ukraine to present their perspectives on this issue. We will also have a new rapid customized country support in Europe and Central Asia. And we have also a national teams quarterly meeting, as well as new fellowships opportunities to participate in a learning activity. July to September, we will have 2 new learning cycles and a workshop, which is basically for exploring digitalization in education. Digitalization in education is also one of the important thematic priorities and reforms ongoing in the countries. And yeah, next slide, please. So this is what awaits you for the next months. Now we have a little bit time left. If you have any questions or comments, I didn't follow the chat. Maybe someone from the team can help me if we have anything new.
Julia, we did not receive any questions in this last block, but maybe let me just join to clarify one question that was included earlier from colleagues from Ukraine asking about earlier call for proposals in which they submitted research proposals for KICS research. Just to clarify that the hub is not involved in the process of selection or assessment of the research projects. Our role is to help the information about the call for proposals to reach the relevant national stakeholders. So we'll be always helping you out with getting information about the open call for proposals, but we are fortunately not in a position to be part of that assessment and to give you any feedback in that sense. That is the responsibility of the International Development Research Center in Canada, who is managing the KICS program. In the meantime, I didn't see any other questions, so maybe we can move to the next steps. Julia?
Yes, let's move to the next steps. Next slide, please. So you have different ways to connect with us, to join the activities. So first of all, you have the web page where you find all the information on our activities, countries, and our team. You can also sign up for the mailing list, so you will be always informed about new activities and news from our hub, but also from Global Partnership for Education and from our partners and the KICS research brands. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Next slide. Here you have our contacts. You can also find them on our webpage from myself and Veronica. And we have also a general email, which you also always can use to reach out in case you have any questions. Finally, here you can see our KICS national coordinators from different countries. And yeah, here you can see the next steps in each of the countries. I will not go into details now, but mainly we are establishing the national infrastructure in some of the countries. We're concluding the exchange on inclusive education, and we're aiming also to have a memorandum of understanding with the ministries to strengthen our collaboration. Yeah, we have also one question I see from Farida. She's asking, okay, which directions in the field of teacher management we will include in the KICS priorities. I'm not sure, could you maybe clarify a little bit this question? Farida? Maybe we can open her microphone in case she wants to speak.
Yes, Farida, we just offered you the opportunity to unmute. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. So what I meant in my question is that, for instance, KICS has some priorities for research to inform policies and practices for developing for teachers' professional development. So when we speak about management, it might include qualifications and some other directions. So what are the specific directions of teacher management that are part of your priorities. So if possible, I will answer this question in Russian. The translation to English is there. So we have identified organizations that work on this thematic priority. Like, for instance, in Kyrgyzstan, this is EPPK, the Ministry of Education, of course, yourself, because we have always discussed these issues with you. So the idea is that we would contact every single country. We will contact colleagues who work on this thematic priority, trying to identify the existing approaches in the country. And then, based on the findings, we will discuss at the regional level what kind of approaches already exist, what are the differences between countries, and what are the global tendencies, what are the global trends, so that we would have a knowledgeable meeting and exchange. So we do not have some specific idea that we want to take and work on. It actually depends on what we find in countries, what our colleagues in countries suggest. I mean, those who are experts or who work on this thematic priority in their countries. I do hope that I have answered your question, Farida. Yes, thank you. Then I go back to the English channel.
So, dear colleagues, I would say we all finally, like we have 2 minutes left. I would say from the KICS EMAP team, I would like to thank you for your participation. I would like to thank you for your ongoing collaboration. And I'm really enjoying working with all the colleagues who I'm already known. And I'm happy to see new colleagues, new faces, new names. And I'm really excited for this new phase, strengthen the relationships, continuing the activities, expand the activities, and expand our network. So thank you very much for you being here today, and feel free always to reach out and connect. And now I'm handing over for the closing words to our KICS EMAP Hub Manager, Jose Luis Canela.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you, everyone. I think this was a very engaging session, and I think we managed to achieve the objectives that you wanted, which is that we will know more about the hub and how the hub is positioning itself in Europe and Central Asia. You will know how to get in contact with the hub central team, the knowledge lead, the project officer, as well as your key contacts in each country, and you will know what is coming next in terms of the hub's activities. So there is always something that we always want is to listen continuously to you, and we are sharing in the chat a link to the survey where you can share your views about today's events. What went well, what would we do better in relation to this kind of events? So we want to continue to listen to you. And before I finish, in just 1 minute, 2 minutes, I want to highlight 3 key points. The first is that knowledge. Knowledge is the first word in our KICS name. Knowledge is at the heart of everything we do. We were telling you today, our hub is a platform for knowledge sharing. Knowledge sharing on education priorities that you tell us, that the GP partner countries tell us. And this knowledge can derive from international sources, because we want to know what is happening in terms of education knowledge across the world. But our priority angle is that we want to surface knowledge that is already existing in your GP partner countries. And we want to use that knowledge so that it can be shared across the different GP partner countries. Another key question here that we have is on connections. The hub is critical in terms as a platform to make connections, to make bridges, so that we can work with government, academia, civil society, also KICS research projects. We are making connections between the different stakeholder groups that are working in education system. And finally, our work is always complementary. We are not saying that we are changing the education landscape in your own countries. We are complementing existing reforms. We are adding, we are supplementing. We are not competing with other initiatives. We are not duplicating. We want just to be adding and seeing from our modest and targeted support, how we can be meaningful in contributing to education policy in all of your countries. In all of this, we thank you for your participation, for your interests, and we look forward for great work in the Europe and Central Asia under the support of Julia Davina and Veronica Nizolova. Thank you all, everyone.